Aardvark, automobile, audience, autonomy. Awesome. That last one's a great Scrabble word. It refers to Hawaiian volcanic activity and lets you link two different words. But that's not the 6 A's that we're talking about. Those are great words, but we're talking about the 6 A's of project-based learning, an entire series on them. We're going to start with academic rigor. Welcome to PBL Simplified for Teachers, where we simplify your PBL need-to-knows to simplify the PBL process for your classroom. To launch this 6 A's of PBL series, we've got to start with academic rigor because your classroom time is at a premium. There is no time for a fluff project that kids really love but doesn't hit a ton of standards. At Magnify Learning, we start every PBL workshop by digging into your standards and then building out an engaging PBL unit from there. And from there, we create a unit that engages kids' employability skills like critical thinking and problem solving and collaboration, but it all starts with academic rigor. And really, we didn't get into education just to have kids be engaged. We want them to be engaged so that we can teach them really hard things that are going to help them on their next adventure. So academic rigor is going to be the foundation of our PBL journey. So that's why we're starting there as we talk about the 6 A's. And we're going to start with 2 specific areas in academic rigor. The first is that standards aren't bad, right? Standards aren't bad, especially our power standards. The reason we've selected those power standards is we think that if our students can master those, then they'll be successful in their next adventure out in the real world. So those power standards are really just a foundational piece for us to jump off of and get creative with and show our learners why they're so important. Bring in community partners, real world problems to solve. You're going to use those power standards to do those things. The second thing we're going to start with for academic rigor is that those subject areas that are involved in standardized tests through the state, those are places where you should absolutely have project-based learning. If you're looking to get learners to engage and wrestle with content so that they can remember it and find deeper learning, like it gives them those handles to hold on to. They develop those perseverance skills so when those tests get hard and they have 4 or 5 steps to them, your learners can tackle those. So we've actually got a blog, right? There's the resource lights on, so you know you've got some resources coming. Down in the description, there is actually our most clicked on blog ever is actually about PBL in an English classroom. And then I'll also put one in there for PBL in the math classroom because it fits really well there too. So when we look at PBL, we're not shying away from the academic rigor piece, and we're not going to shy away with standardized tests. Those are the places where our PBLers are like, well, we have to be doing PBL for those because we want our learners to excel on those standardized tests, and PBL gets us to that deeper learning where they can use those skills. Academic rigor should be at the forefront of our PBL process and the data that we're collecting. We do want to engage our learners in employability skills. It's one of the great strengths of project-based learning, but it has to be rooted and foundational in academic rigor. So if you're brand new to PBL as you go through this series, I want you to really assess where your rigor level is at as you go through here. Give a hard test and see where your learners are at. Make sure they're learning these foundational pieces of our power standards. If you are a veteran PBLer, I want you to really assess where your rigor's at. Same thing, that rigor's got to be there. In fact, that's why we love PBL so much. We get these engaged learners and we can go farther and deeper with them with the rigor and the learning. So honestly assess your practice and make sure that you're starting with academic rigor and starting with those standards. So that's the first in a series of 6, actually 8, 6 A's of PBL learning. I'm going to ooch a couple of those and throw in some extra A's for you as we go along. But this is the first one, and it's because it's foundational. So stick with this series. This is really a lot of the heart and soul of PBL are these A's and how we break those down. As you do that, you'll engage your learners, tackle boredom, and transform your classroom.